There comes a phase in life where answers stop arriving loudly. No dramatic realizations, no emotional breakthroughs, no sudden clarity that feels cinematic. Instead, there is silence, not the empty kind, the instructive kind. He noticed it slowly. The urge to chase opinions faded. The need to constantly decide softened. The pressure to define the future relaxed. At first, this felt dangerous, because for most of his life, movement had meant safety. If you're moving, you're progressing. If you're thinking, you're improving. If you're planning, you're in control. Silence felt like surrender, but it wasn't. Psychologically, silence appears only when the nervous system stops panicking, only when urgency is no longer required to maintain identity. This silence didn't paralyze him, it oriented him. He realized something unsettling. Most decisions people make are not responses to reality. They are reactions to internal noise. Fear of falling behind, fear of being irrelevant, fear of missing momentum. That noise had gone quiet, and without it, he could finally hear direction. Direction doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't rush. It waits. He began to trust this waiting, not passively, but attentively. Attention without pressure is rare. Most people observe life while already arguing with it. He stopped arguing. He let patterns reveal themselves. He noticed which efforts felt heavy and which felt aligned, which conversations drained him and which sharpened him, which ambitions created tension and which created stability. This differentiation had always been available, but noise had masked it. Silence uncovered it. He also noticed resistance. When silence stretches, old habits try to return. The mind suggests urgency. Do something, make a move, decide now. He didn't obey. Not out of laziness, out of discipline. Discipline is not constant action. It is appropriate action. Knowing when not to move is advanced self-control. He remembered how often he had mistaken anxiety for intuition. Anxiety pushes, intuition invites. Anxiety demands certainty. Intuition offers direction without explanation. He learned the difference by waiting. This waiting didn't weaken him. It strengthened internal trust, trust that he could pause without losing momentum, trust that life wouldn't collapse if he didn't immediately interfere, trust that clarity matures when not forced. This is uncomfortable for most people because silence removes distraction, and without distraction, you face yourself honestly. He noticed unresolved desires, unfinished narratives, subtle fears that urgency once hid. Silence exposed them, not aggressively, but patiently. He didn't rush to fix them. Fixing too early creates distortion. Understanding comes first. He observed how identity shifts during quiet phases. Without external validation, ego has less to cling to. Without struggle, self-worth has to stand on something deeper. This made him confront a question most people avoid. If nothing is demanded of me right now, who am I choosing to be? That question has no quick answer. It isn't meant to. It reshapes values. He noticed his standards refining. What he tolerated before now felt misaligned. What excited him before now felt shallow. What scared him before now felt negotiable. This wasn't boredom, it was maturation. Maturity doesn't add urgency, it removes false ones. He also noticed something physiological. His breathing slowed, his sleep deepened, his reactions softened. The body often adapts before the mind understands. A regulated body creates a clearer mind. A clearer mind creates better decisions. He stopped chasing clarity. Clarity arrived on its own. And when it did, it wasn't loud. It felt obvious in hindsight. He understood now. This phase wasn't about growth. It was about calibration, adjusting internal systems, aligning effort with direction, removing excess motion, like tuning an instrument before playing the next movement. Silence was the tuning, and tuning determines quality. He realized that the next phase of his life would not require more force. It would require precision, not louder ambition, cleaner intention, not faster action, better timing. This understanding settled deeply. He didn't announce it, didn't explain it, didn't share it. Some realizations lose power when spoken too early. He protected this one, because silence wasn't absence anymore, it had become direction. Silence does not last forever, not because it fails, but because it completes its work. After silence comes order, not external order, internal order. He felt it forming gradually. Thoughts no longer collided, emotions no longer competed, decisions no longer argued inside him. This was unfamiliar. For years his inner world had been noisy, ideas overlapping, doubts interrupting confidence, desire fighting caution. That noise had once felt productive, but now he could see it clearly. It was inefficiency disguised as intensity. Order is not excitement. Order is efficiency, and efficiency changes how power operates. He noticed that when internal order appears, life stops feeling chaotic, even when it objectively is. Problems still existed, responsibilities still demanded attention, uncertainty still surrounded him, but none of it entered his nervous system the same way. Because inner order filters reality, it decides what deserves response and what can pass without engagement. Most people don't suffer because life is hard. They suffer because everything feels urgent. Urgency is psychological disorder. He had removed it, and with its removal, he gained something rare: response authority. He could choose how to engage. He could delay reaction without losing momentum. He could say no without guilt. He could act decisively without emotional turbulence. This wasn't detachment, it was regulation. He began to understand discipline differently. Earlier, discipline meant forcing behavior, waking up despite resistance, working despite exhaustion, pushing through discomfort. That kind of discipline builds strength, but it damages sensitivity. Now discipline felt quieter. It meant protecting focus, protecting energy, protecting clarity. It meant not allowing internal chaos to dictate external behavior. This discipline didn't feel heroic, it felt mature. He saw how many people confuse chaos with passion. They burn themselves repeatedly and call it dedication. They exhaust their nervous systems and call it ambition. He no longer admired that. He admired sustainability. Sustainability is not impressive short-term, but it is unbeatable long-term. He started organizing his inner life the way strategists organize systems. What inputs mattered? What outputs were required? Where was energy leaking? He noticed mental habits that quietly drained him: over-explaining, over-analyzing, over-anticipating reactions. He removed them one by one, not aggressively, methodically. Inner order does not tolerate excess. He also noticed emotional patterns, which emotions gave information and which only created noise. Anxiety stopped being an enemy. It became a signal of misalignment, signal of overreach, signal of unclear intention. Instead of suppressing it, he interpreted it. Emotion is data when identity is stable. Earlier emotions felt threatening because they challenged self-image. Now self-image was flexible, so emotions informed rather than controlled. This shift changed how he handled pressure. Pressure no longer compressed him, it revealed structure, like stress testing a system. He could see which parts of himself were strong enough to hold load and which needed reinforcement. He reinforced quietly, no announcements, no dramatic self-talk, just adjustment. He realized something important. Most people fail not because of lack of capability, but because of internal disorganization. Talent scattered by distraction, intelligence undermined by emotion, ambition diluted by inconsistency. Order integrates all three. When intelligence, emotion, and ambition align, output multiplies without added effort. He felt that multiplication happening. Work took less time, decisions took less energy, recovery happened faster. This created surplus. Surplus time, surplus attention, surplus calm. Most people waste surplus. He invested it. He invested it into thinking long-term, not fantasizing, strategizing. He asked better questions. What systems can I build that don't depend on constant motivation? What structures allow progress even on low-energy days? What choices reduce future complexity? These questions didn't excite him. They stabilized him. And stability is the foundation of scale. He also noticed a social shift. People around him reacted differently. Some felt calmer in his presence. Some felt unsettled. Some became defensive. Order exposes disorder. Without saying anything, his regulation highlighted others' dysregulation. He didn't correct them, didn't advise, didn't explain. People only change when they feel safe, not judged. He remained neutral. Neutrality is powerful. It neither attacks nor submits, it observes. He began to speak less, not because he had nothing to say, but because words became expensive. He chose precision over volume. When he spoke, people listened, not because he demanded attention, but because he didn't compete for it. This is how authority forms naturally. Authority is not claimed, it is sensed. Internally, he felt less urgency to prove intelligence. He already trusted his thinking. He felt less need to be right. Being effective mattered more. Correctness is ego-driven. Effectiveness is outcome-driven. He chose outcomes. This required emotional restraint, not suppression. Restraint, the ability to pause between impulse and action. That pause is where mastery lives. He extended that pause deliberately. He allowed discomfort to exist without immediately resolving it. Discomfort lost its power. Most impulsive actions are attempts to escape discomfort. When discomfort is tolerated, clarity emerges. He tolerated, and clarity came. He also noticed how his perception of time changed. Earlier, time felt scarce. Now time felt structured. He wasn't rushing, he was sequencing. Sequencing is different from speed. Speed burns fuel. Sequence conserves it. He placed effort where it mattered, ignored what didn't. This selective engagement made his life feel lighter without being smaller. Lighter is not less. Lighter is refined. Refinement is removal of excess. He removed excess ambition, excess explanation, excess reaction. What remained was alignment expressed through order. This order didn't isolate him from life, it made life manageable. He understood now. Inner order is not control of life, it is control of response. Life remains unpredictable, but response becomes reliable, and reliability creates confidence. Not the loud confidence of bravado, the quiet confidence of preparedness. He felt prepared, not for a specific event, but for complexity itself. That is the highest form of readiness, and with this readiness, he sensed the next shift approaching, not yet action, but direction sharpening. Inner order had done its work. Now it was preparing him for deliberate movement. After inner order settles, something unexpected happens. Desire changes its shape. It doesn't disappear, it matures. He noticed that the hunger he once had was no longer loud. Earlier, desire used to shout. It demanded outcomes. It wanted proof. It needed validation. Now desire felt quiet, not weak, directed. Psychologically, this is a critical shift. Most people are driven by desire because they lack control. Desire compensates for instability. When control develops, desire stops screaming, it starts advising. He saw this clearly in himself. He no longer wanted everything. He wanted what fit. This selectivity was new. Earlier, he believed wanting less meant becoming less ambitious. Now he understood the truth. Wanting less means wasting less. Waste is the enemy of mastery. He watched how desire, when unchecked, creates unnecessary complexity. Too many goals, too many directions, too many identities competing. That complexity exhausts people long before life does. He simplified, not by lowering standards, but by raising alignment. If something didn't align internally, he didn't chase it externally. This was not discipline anymore. It was coherence. Coherence is when thoughts, emotions, and actions point in the same direction. Most people live fragmented lives. They think one thing, feel another, do a third. That fragmentation drains energy. He had reduced it, and with reduced fragmentation, control became natural. Control is misunderstood. People think control means suppression. It doesn't. Control means governance. Like a well-run system, nothing is eliminated. Everything has a place. His impulses didn't vanish. They were organized. His emotions didn't flatten. They were contextualized. His ambition didn't die. It was prioritized. This internal governance changed how he handled temptation. Temptation lost its urgency, not because temptation disappeared, but because it no longer threatened identity. Earlier, temptation felt powerful because it promised relief. Relief from pressure, relief from expectation, relief from self-imposed demand. Now, pressure was gone, so temptation had nothing to offer. He noticed this especially in moments of fatigue. Earlier, fatigue triggered escape. Now, fatigue triggered rest. That difference is maturity. Most people escape when tired because they don't allow rest without guilt. He allowed it. Rest without guilt restores faster. This created a new rhythm. Work, pause, adjust, proceed. No emotional drama, no self-criticism, just calibration. He also noticed how control affected confidence. Confidence no longer came from performance, it came from predictability. He trusted how he would respond. That trust created calm. Calm allowed patience. Patience allowed timing. Timing amplified outcomes. This is how quiet power operates. It doesn't rush to be seen, it waits to be effective. He became more patient with people too, not indulgent, patient. He could see where people were driven by unregulated desire. He could see insecurity hiding behind ambition. He could see fear disguised as urgency. Earlier, this would frustrate him. Now it informed him. Information doesn't require reaction, it requires awareness. He stopped trying to pull people forward. Pulling creates resistance. He focused on his own trajectory. Movement attracts more than persuasion ever does. This detachment wasn't cold, it was respectful. Respectful of others' timing, respectful of his own energy. He no longer overinvested emotionally. Emotional overinvestment creates expectations. Expectations create disappointment. Disappointment creates bitterness. He bypassed that entire cycle by regulating attachment. He cared, but without clinging. This changed his relationships. They became cleaner, fewer unspoken demands, fewer hidden negotiations, fewer emotional debts. Clarity replaced complexity. Some connections faded, others strengthened. He didn't interfere. Alignment decides naturally. He also noticed something subtle in himself. His sense of self-worth stabilized. It no longer fluctuated with outcomes. Wins didn't inflate him. Losses didn't collapse him. This neutrality wasn't indifference. It was resilience. Resilience is emotional elasticity, the ability to absorb impact without structural damage. Most people are brittle. They look strong until pressure arrives. He had become elastic. That elasticity made him dangerous in a quiet way, because he could endure without distortion. He could wait without resentment. He could act without desperation. Desperation is the weakest position. He was no longer there. He also realized something philosophical. Desire is useful early in life. It creates motion, but later, desire must be governed, or it becomes sabotage. Many people never make this transition. They remain desire-driven forever, always chasing, always hungry, always unsatisfied. He stepped out of that loop. Control replaced desire as the primary driver. Control is slower, but it compounds. Desire spikes and crashes. Control builds and stabilizes. This understanding rewired his ambition. He didn't abandon ambition, he refined it. Ambition became architectural, not about single wins, but about systems. Systems that could support growth without burning him. Systems that didn't require constant intensity. Systems that functioned even on low emotion days. This is where most people fail. They design lives that only work when motivation is high. Motivation is unreliable. Control is not. He designed for control. This made progress feel less exciting, but excitement is not a requirement for effectiveness. He accepted that. He no longer needed emotional reward after every effort. Effort itself became neutral, like maintenance, and maintenance is what keeps systems alive. He also noticed how his thinking sharpened. Without desire distorting perception, he could see reality clearly. He saw trade-offs, he saw consequences, he saw second-order effects. This prevented impulsive decisions. Impulsivity is expensive. He avoided unnecessary cost, financially, emotionally, mentally. This accumulation of small savings created a large advantage. Most advantages are invisible at first. They reveal themselves over time. He wasn't impatient. He trusted the trajectory. Control had replaced desire, and with that replacement, his life stopped feeling reactive. It became deliberate, not rigid, not obsessive, deliberate. And deliberateness is the bridge between awareness and execution. He was approaching execution, not yet, but soon. There is a quiet moment when life stops testing you. Not because you have won, not because you are finished, but because you are no longer fragile. He didn't notice it immediately. There was no signal, no confirmation, no external validation, just a subtle absence, the absence of inner resistance. Situations that once triggered anxiety now passed through him without friction. Challenges still appeared, but they didn't shake his core. This is when he understood something fundamental. Life tests people only while they are internally unstable. Once stability forms, tests turn into tasks, and tasks don't threaten identity. They only require execution. He felt that shift deeply. Earlier, obstacles felt personal, as if life was questioning him, as if every difficulty was a verdict on his worth, intelligence, or readiness. Now obstacles felt neutral, like weather. You don't take weather personally, you prepare for it. That preparation had already happened inside him. This was the outcome of everything before: silence, order, control. They weren't phases, they were training. Training for a state where nothing external could hijack his internal alignment. He noticed how differently he moved now. No rushing, no freezing, no overthinking. Movement was clean, decisions emerged fully formed, not impulsive, integrated. This integration created confidence that didn't fluctuate. Confidence rooted in knowing he could handle outcomes without emotional collapse. Most people fear outcomes because outcomes threaten identity. He had loosened identity, so outcomes lost power. Success didn't define him, failure didn't diminish him. Both became information. Information improves strategy, emotion clouds it. He chose clarity over drama. This made life simpler without making it smaller. He began to live from a place most people never reach: non-reactive engagement. He engaged fully, but without internal chaos. This is rare. Most engagement is reactive. People act because they are provoked, pressured, insecure, or afraid of being left behind. He acted because action was appropriate. That distinction changed everything. He also noticed something philosophical. He no longer needed life to feel meaningful. Meaning wasn't something he chased. It emerged naturally from alignment. When actions align with values, meaning is automatic. This relieved him from a heavy burden, the burden of constantly asking, what is the point? The point reveals itself when internal conflict dissolves. He wasn't searching anymore. Searching implies lack. He was refining. Refinement implies presence. This refinement showed up in his choices. He chose depth over novelty, consistency over excitement, precision over volume. He didn't need many goals. He needed correct ones. Correct goals don't exhaust you. They organize you. He felt organized, not rigid, but structured, like a well-designed system that can absorb stress without breaking. He also saw the world differently. People's behavior made sense, not morally, mechanically. He saw how unregulated emotions drive decisions, how unresolved identity issues create conflict, how most suffering is not caused by life, but by misinterpretation of life. This didn't make him superior. It made him compassionate without being naive. Compassion without boundaries is weakness. Boundaries without compassion is isolation. He balanced both. This balance was his new strength. He didn't rescue people, didn't correct them, didn't argue. He allowed them to be where they were, and he stayed where he was. Alignment doesn't require agreement. It requires integrity. He protected his integrity carefully, not aggressively, quietly. He stopped explaining himself. Explanation invites debate. Debate invites dilution. He chose clarity over approval. Approval is unstable currency. Integrity compounds. He also noticed that life started responding differently. Opportunities appeared without chase. Conversations opened naturally. Resistance reduced, not because life became easier, but because he stopped fighting it internally. Internal friction creates external friction. Remove one, the other softens. This is not mystical. It is psychological alignment. When you stop resisting reality, reality stops resisting you. He didn't become passive, he became accurate. Accuracy is powerful. It wastes nothing. He realized now, this phase wasn't about becoming more. It was about becoming correct. Correct in direction, correct in pacing, correct in intention. Once correctness stabilizes, growth becomes inevitable. Not explosive, not dramatic, inevitable, like gravity. He felt grounded. Grounded people are dangerous in a calm way. They are not impressed easily. They are not shaken easily. They are not manipulated easily. They don't need to dominate. Their presence sets tone. He had become that presence, not through effort, through subtraction. Subtraction of noise, subtraction of false urgency, subtraction of borrowed identities. What remained was real, and real is resilient. He understood now why this phase felt quiet, slow, and almost invisible, because it was foundational. You don't celebrate foundations, you build on them, and what is built on stability does not collapse under pressure. He didn't know exactly what the next chapter would look like, but for the first time, he wasn't concerned. Concern belongs to those who don't trust themselves. He trusted himself, not blindly, precisely, and with that trust, life stopped testing him. It started collaborating.